We are live and direct from home today with Neal Francis, and that song we just heard, Alameda Apartments, opens up the brilliant new album In Plain Sight. Neal, I read that that song was partly inspired by a dream. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure, Joey. I was, this was years ago, probably 7 years ago, and it was at a time when I didn't typically have dreams just because of the way I was treating my body and my brain. But yeah, it was like I was moving into this haunted Art Deco 1920s apartment building, and I vividly remember the name Almeida Apartments like engraved in stone above the door, and it was such a vivid dream that I wrote it down, and I don't think I had ever encountered that name Almeida consciously or registered it before, so
Interesting.
I took note of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess dreams tell us something, and it's just our mission to figure that out. Is that typical for you to kind of receive what the universe is giving, or are you more of like a sit down and grind it out kind of writer?
I think I do both. I actually just spent a week in LA writing a bunch of new material with Sergio Rios, producer of the last two records. But I do take I find those like moments of inspiration that come from the universe or wherever. Those are like little gifts, and I make whatever effort I can to like take note of those and use those.
Yeah. And you were saying that you lived and worked in a church for this album. Can you talk about that experience and what it meant for you and for your music?
Yeah, of course. It was amazing. I started working there probably in 2018, maybe 2017. And I was an accompanist at their services, which were very small. And throughout that time, I just, gained a really good rapport with the small congregation. And at a time of crisis, they opened the doors to allow me to live in the parsonage, which is typically the pastor's residence of this church. And all was going well and good, and then the pandemic struck, and they extended their hospitality, and I was able to stay throughout. That well, up until
Still
last
here,
July,
huh?
I was able to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But uh, at the beginning when we weren't touring, it was so important just to have a roof over my head, and so it was like this huge, like another gift, just to have a space, and then to use that space creatively like we did. It was just like I'm still reflecting on it, and I was just talking with my drummer yesterday about how unique and special that experience was. And I'll always, cherish it.
And you said that you were working as an accompanist, which presumably means you were, going to church every week. Do you find that having structure like that, did that do anything for you in your own musical life? Because I imagine that it's a stark contrast to, musician on the road.
Well, I was at the beginning of what became the Neal Francis project when I took the job. I just started writing the songs, and it was extra money at first. That was like a very important aspect of it, because I was just gigging. I was playing a lot of weddings, playing a lot of bar gigs. I was working a day gig, and like, everything was just sort of very nebulous in my mind. I didn't have a true vision for the project, but what the church job really did, which was important for me, was like rekindle my my process of like learning written music. And that was something that I really neglected for a long period of time. And so practicing piano in a more disciplined way and learning how to read music became a bigger part of my life. And I'm so grateful for that as well.
Well, Changes, I think, is one of my favorite albums from a couple of years ago, but I think that In Plain Sight might just be one of my favorites, period. So can you talk about the evolution? It's really good. Like my buddy saw you a couple of years ago, grabbed the record, and was like telling everybody about it, and I enjoyed it. But this one, I think, is amazing, and I think a lot of it has to do with how different it is sonically. So can you talk about that evolution? I love those synths; they're just amazing.
Thank you, Joey. I love synthesizers too. I wanted the world to know, so I decided to just have a lot of synths on this record. Basically, the record sounds like it does because that's I knew what we had at our disposal. My friend Mike Novak, who engineered the record, provided lots of his studio equipment. We built out a studio in the living room and dining room area of the church. And then, we tracked the band in the basement remotely. But all the equipment we were using, I bought a couple tape machines. We had an 8-track tape machine that belonged to my guitarist. And so a lot of it just has that, the flavor of tape, which I'm in love with personally. I think it's a more direct route to the sound quality that I happen to like. The other thing that was important that we had with this record was lots of time for me to learn how to use this equipment, and also just for me to craft these songs and for the band to learn them so well. And it was a really big step up for everybody involved.
Certainly time well spent. Well, Neal Francis is in town this weekend for a show at Club Cafe. He's got a killer new album out there called In Plain Sight, and we're going to hear another song from it right now. Neal, can you talk about Can't Stop the Rain?
Yeah, of course. This song I wrote with my good friend David Shaw when we were in New Orleans in 2019. And at the time, it was definitely just another relationship song, man, like, issues. And I feel grateful that I can get close with David on stuff like that. But it really, after what happened with pandemic and quarantine, it is like such a mantra for me that just like go with the flow, accept the circumstances, and I'm going to be okay. So,
all right, this is Can't Stop the Rain. It's Neal Francis recorded live from home here at WYEP. Now, Neal, that song is so much fun, and on the album, it gets the old Derek Trucks guitar treatment, which sounds so good. Had you worked with him before? How did all that come about?
No, the song was fully in the can, as they say, and I shared it with a good friend of mine who has worked with Derek and Susan, which I had somehow compartmentalized in my brain and not even really realized that he was working closely with them. But he was like, oh yeah, like, this is great. I feel like Derek would sound awesome on this. I'm like, me too. That would be really cool. Like, just thinking it was just, like, why are you even saying that? And then the next week he's like, yeah, Derek loves the song. He'd love to cut something on it. I was like, Cool. Yeah. So I got to have a conversation with him on the phone the day he went into the studio, and he's such a gracious and humble guy. And, yeah, he really, added some beautiful texture to that one.
As he does. The album is called In Plain Sight. Where does that title come from? I think I read that it was named for a song that didn't end up on the album. Is that correct?
Yeah. So initially it was going to be the last song on the record, and I fully intend to release this song down the road. But, there was, I wasn't the only person involved in sequencing the record, and I was opening up that process to other people, and the suggestion was made to put Say Your Prayers at the end. And I was really okay with calling the record In Plain Sight, sort of as a Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin. Like, that record doesn't include the track Houses of the Holy, yet it is titled Houses of the Holy. And then they save that track for Physical Graffiti, their next record. So the next record will be a double LP.
Ooh.
And it's going to be my Physical Graffiti.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. Like I said, I am, marginally obsessed with this album. I don't want to be too fanboy over here, but my go-to song is probably Sentimental Garbage. I love it.
Oh, sweet.
It's so good, man. But I think we should also talk about Prometheus. Is it challenging to take inspiration from a place like classical mythology because it's all been said before? Or is it that, like, the human condition is so universally difficult that those stories just always make sense?
Personally, I'm really, thank you for mentioning that song, or both those songs. But, yeah, Prometheus is a favorite of mine. I'm really proud of the way I wrote it, because usually I'm just stuck in some sort of, like, autobiographical nonsense. And this was an instance where I was like, okay, like, I have this idea, let's apply a concept outside your own life for 1 second. And I had just seen the movie Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. And although the circumstances were vastly different, sometimes my drummer and I, living at the church, found that our lives resembled theirs. And at the end of the movie, I realized it was an allegory for the story of Prometheus. And so after a 20-minute dive into the Wikipedia article, I considered myself an expert and decided to write a song about it. So there you have the birth of that song. But I'm still, now I'm trying to, like, do that a lot more, where I'm incorporating what I'm reading into what I'm writing, and I think it's more palatable for me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I guess sometimes you gotta step out of your own head, and that's whether you're a musician or working at a grocery store. I mean, yeah. I know I get stuck in there quite a bit.
Don't want to spend too much time in there.
No, that's for sure. Well, we're going to wrap this up with a studio version of the song Problems, which I think is a really interesting relationship tune. Neal, what can you tell us about that song?
That was another co-write with good friend, Chris Galbuta, and we wrote it on the first time we ever met. I just showed up at his house, and he had the coffee ready, and it was like, we just became best friends. Like, that was basically what happened when he opened the door. And, yeah, like writing with David, writing with Chris, it was very easy to just get honest and talk about what was going on in my life, what was going on with my relationship. And, he's a great songwriter, so I'm excited to write with him more.
All right, well, we're looking forward to the show. That's this weekend at Club Cafe, Sunday night. You can find details about that at WYEP.org. And then, man, looking forward to a new double album. I don't want to...
Yeah, man.
I don't want to look too far in the future, because I think people got to sit with this one for a minute and really soak it up, but it's exciting.
2 disco sides, 2 psych rock sides. Anything in between.
Perfect.
Peruvian flute music.
I can get down with that. Well, Neal, thanks so much
too.
for taking some time. Looking forward to our musical future together. Thanks for talking.
Thanks, Joey. See you on this weekend.